Welcome to Sports Talk, your favorite place for all your sporting news. And here are your hosts.
I'm Justin Palillo, and I am happy to say that Larry Sanders is back in the lineup after a rough year last year, and I am, this is rough to say, but Jimmy Butler will miss 2 to 4 weeks with a thumb injury.
I'm Holden Pirelli, and I'm happy to say that Jake Peavy just finished his second outing as a Giant in the playoffs with his second straight loss in this postseason World Series. Like I said last week, Jake Peavy would be the reason that the Giants would lose the World Series, especially Game 6 and Game 2.
I'm Jeremy Farina, and that statement is outrageous. First off, we're gonna start this show off with some Game 7 predictions. But before that, I just want to say that Jake Peavy is the reason the Giants are in the postseason in the first place, going 6-0 with a 1.13 ERA in the month of August and September. The Giants made the postseason by 1 game. 6 wins are Jake Peavy's. Therefore, the Giants aren't in the World Series without Jake Peavy. So I think he can, be cut some slack for having pitched 2 road games in arguably the most hostile environment there will be in a postseason for a very long time in the Kansas City that has been out of the postseason for 25 years.
But, like I said, last week on Sports Talk, last Wednesday for our viewers, Jeremy Farina, the host to my left, said that Jake Peavy would win Game 2 and be one of the main reasons Giants would win the World Series. And I'm happy to report that Jake Peavy did not win Game 2 as I predicted, and that was the central proponent of our discussion.
Whatever. I have no comment. It's just ridiculous, outrageous. Can't hurt on Jake Peavy now. But anyways, we're going to move on, talk a little about the NBA, opening night reactions for really any team. Either it be a prediction for tonight or what happened last night. Obviously, the NBA season is officially underway. Justin, do you have anything to say about opening night reactions?
Well, obviously, opening day in the NBA is probably my second favorite day of the year, just because NBA is by far my favorite just league anywhere, my favorite thing to watch. Basketball is my favorite sport, and the NBA is my favorite thing to watch at that level. I was very shocked with Chandler Parsons last night. I think he could have picked it up. I mean, I think he only had, 5 points last night. Just a horrible game by his standards. I mean, people were giving the Rockets, they were not making fun of him. They were trashing them for getting rid of him. But it turns out that Trevor Ariza, based on last night's stats, is a better player than him. And that's where I was shocked there. I was also very impressed with James Harden dropping 32 on the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers weren't, a big team coming in. I think the Rockets knew they were going to win the game, but it's a good game for James Harden, but it's just a good way to start the season. I was impressed by him. And, I'm also very impressed with Anthony Davis, who I think is up for MVP this year already. I mean, 9 blocks. He 1 block away from a triple-double. I mean, this guy's legit. I think he's going to be good for the next couple years, and I think this is the beginning of his 3rd season, and with Kevin Durant out there, I think he could possibly slide into that second-best player in the NBA for the beginning of the season. So I was very impressed with Davis, unimpressed with Chandler Parsons, and I was happy with James Harden as well.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed opening night last night of the NBA season. Like you said earlier, it is too my second favorite day of the year. My favorite day of the year is the NBA D-League. That's my favorite day of the year. But anyways, I just loved opening night last night. I always love watching Shaq, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith kick things off. I was pretty shocked with the San Antonio-Dallas Mavericks game. I was watching that game. I tuned in at halftime. The Mavericks were leading 53-46, and then I wake up the next morning and San Antonio won the game by 1 point. I was pretty shocked by that. And like you said earlier, I think Anthony Davis is going to be a pretty good player in the future. He's going to be the next superstar in the NBA, the next Tim Duncan in the NBA. I mean, 9 blocks, 1 short of a triple-double, for Pete's sake. But again, it was against the Orlando Magic, who I don't really consider a serious NBA team. If I see him post numbers like this against the Knicks, the Cavs, or the Heat, I'll be really impressed. But Anthony Davis was very impressive last night. I'll just be more impressed if he does it against elite teams and New Orleans becomes a playoff team in the future.
Going back to, I'm going to look more to tonight. I'm interested to see how the Rajon Rondo saga either comes to an end or continues on in Boston. I was interested, they drafted Marcus Smart, they signed Avery Bradley back. You would think that they would have either not done those two moves, or one of those moves at least, if they had plans for him to return. So I'm thinking that this could finally be the year where Rajon Rondo is dealt, whether it's to a team like the Knicks that have been interested in him for a while, or maybe another team like the Rockets or something like that. But I'm happy to see him in the lineup. It's always a guy that I've always been a fan of. One of the most iconic plays I can remember is the playoff game against the Magic when he reaches in between, I think it was J.J. Redick's legs to get the ball on a turnover. I think that he's just a guy who plays hard, kind of an underrated guy in the league. He's not a scorer, so a lot of people don't consider him an offensive threat, but the way he distributes the ball, he's a floor general. He's always getting his teammates involved, whether it's Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, or even Jeff Green like he's been doing the last 2 years or so. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. I'm interested to see how the Knicks turn out. I mean, this team isn't really looking like they're going to be much of anything. But obviously, you have Carmelo Anthony. I'm interested to see if J.R. Smith is able to turn it around from last year. Obviously, winning the Sixth Man of the Year 2 years back, and now coming back. If he could maybe turn it around, or if he'll continue to have a mediocre season like he did last season. But I'm interested to see tonight's games and see how they all turn out.
I was also pretty happy watching last night the Lakers and the Rockets go at it, especially when Dwight Howard almost elbowed Kobe in the face, and then Kobe, still showed that feistiness for a 36-year-old, 19-year NBA veteran. He still shows that he's passionate for the game and passionate to play for the Los Angeles Lakers. I love to see that feistiness from Kobe Bryant when he responded to Dwight Howard.
Moving on, we're going to talk about the team or player that has surprised you, whether it be from last night or a guy who you're expecting to have a good season that no one's really looking for. Holden, we'll start with you.
Definitely, I think that a team or a player definitely could be Derrick Rose. I mean, this guy is just a beast, and he's been injury-prone most of his career, hasn't played a full 82-game season, only played 10 games last year. I mean, this guy for the Chicago Bulls has a complete squad with Pau Gasol, Joakim Noah, Jimmy Butler in his third year in the NBA, Mirotic, Doug McDermott, two stud rookies. I mean, he has the most complete team he's had in years. I think a better team than when he had just Lou Alday, Carlos Boozer, and Joakim Noah, which was already a pretty good 1 or 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. I definitely look for the Chicago Bulls and Derrick Rose to have a resurgent season, and Derrick Rose possibly to become league MVP this year. I think he's been away from the game for too long, and he needs to come back this year.
Derrick Rose is the most overrated player in the NBA right now. How can you say a guy is going to be an MVP candidate when he hasn't stepped on the floor in 2 seasons?
I think he's hungry to get back on the court. I mean, he hasn't been on it for over 2 years, and this guy, all the doubt that's been cast on him, all the ad campaigns, the return of Derrick Rose, Adidas, the return. He played in the FIBA World Cup this summer. He looked like a stud. He looked like a great player, and he just hasn't been on the court. And people have questioned him. I mean, they're saying, you don't have it anymore. Should we blow things up in the Chicago organization?
If he was really hungry to get back on the floor, when he had the opportunity to come back in the postseason, he was cleared by doctors, but he didn't feel right. If he was really hungry to get onto the floor, he would have stepped out on that court and played.
Well, we don't know because you're not a Chicago Bulls medical staff member.
But he was cleared.
Right, he was cleared, but you don't know what else was going on, what else was lingering around him in his personal life.
But the doctors said he was okay to go.
Right, but like I said, you're saying the doctor said he was okay to go, but you're not the doctor and you're not within the Bulls organization. Maybe something else was going on with Derrick Rose personally that you don't know about and that he didn't let on. Like I said, he's been away from the game for 2 years. When you're away from the game for 2 years, and I've seen him in preseason action and in the FIBA World Cup, he still has that explosive finish to the rim, that downhill speed, and that athleticism. I think Derrick Rose is going to have his best season yet. He's out to prove the doubters wrong like you, Jeremy.
You cannot consider Derrick Rose an elite player until he plays a full 82-game schedule. If the guy is sitting on the bench, it doesn't matter how much potential he has, how good he can be. If he's not on the floor producing, he's not a player.
Right, but like I said, he was a league MVP. He earned a 5-year, $90 million extension. If that doesn't say superstar, I don't know what else will.
What says superstar is when you're on the court producing numbers. How many points has this guy scored in the last 2 years?
Like I said, he's been injured Again, he had a knee injury last year. I came off a knee injury for football. It's been 2 years, and I still don't feel 100% like I used to. Knee injuries vary between athletes and between people. You can't judge Adrian Peterson's 8-month recovery versus RG3, who's still recovering from his knee injury and still hasn't proven he's been the athlete he has been. So don't go around questioning that Derrick Rose might not be fully healthy because you don't know for sure.
If we're considering RG3's injury and we're comparing Derrick Rose's injury, the second RG3 had the opportunity to get on the field, he was on the field regardless of if he felt 100% or not, because he was hungry to be on the field and knew he needed to produce for his team. You cannot tell me Derrick Rose is hungry to be on the court if the moment he had an opportunity to get on the court, he didn't.
Well, like I said, maybe something was up. Maybe he wasn't fully ready to go when other people were saying he was fully ready to go.
And it is the big time, right, the bright lights are on.
Derrick Rose
when are you not ready to come on?
Derrick Rose, we have to say this first. He's one of the most fragile athletes I've ever seen mentally in the NBA. More fragile than even LeBron. And this guy needs time to recover, okay? He's not as mentally strong as an Adrian Peterson and Robert Griffin III, but what he's shown you is that he's willing to come back to the court, okay? And he's come back this year. He hasn't just limped into retirement like Greg Oden, okay? He's back to show that he's ready to play for the Chicago Bulls and repay those 2 years where he was sitting on the bench, not playing because he had knee injuries and he didn't feel like he could be Derrick Rose. 25-7, Derrick Rose, league MVP.
Justin, what do you have to say?
On that topic, I'll make this quick. Really, I felt bad for the whole situation because regardless of why Derrick Rose didn't come back, I didn't like what the media did with pressuring him and making this a big deal like he might come back in the finals. Which, not saying that I wanted him to stay out or I wanted him to come back. I mean, personally, then I wanted him to come back just because I wanted to shut the Heat fans up and just say, "Oh, look, Derrick Rose comes back. Maybe they can make a run." But I didn't like what the media did there. But that's a what if kind of thing. But going back to the question at hand, I'm gonna go with the guy.
Joakim Noah played through plantar fasciitis. He said it felt like he was stepping on nails every time he was walking up and down the court. This guy is an elite player. This guy has the heart of the champion, something that Derrick Rose lacks. If you have this guy, you put him on the court, and he's playing through something, and it feels like he's stepping on nails every time he is planting his foot, that's a serious contender. That's someone I consider elite. That's someone I want on my team. I don't want a Derrick Rose figure on my team right now. I think he's fragile. A superstar like Kobe Bryant just came out and said, trash talking is a skill, it is a strategy. If Derrick Rose is so fragile mentally, he gets to the finals, he's playing Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is going to eat him alive, and Derrick Rose isn't going to play at the level he's going to play at because Kobe Bryant's going to be in his ear saying, "You're not as good as me. You're not this. You're not a superstar in this league. You haven't proved anything. You haven't won anything." When he gets to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years back in his MVP season year, he doesn't play at the level he needs to for the Bulls to continue on. I think that this guy is not a superstar in the league right now just because he wins an MVP award where LeBron probably should have won. He had a better season. I do not consider this guy a superstar in the league. You need to be on the court to be considered a superstar, and you can't do it with a paper knee.
But like I said, the question that you had proposed for this topic is a player that's going to surprise you. And I believe Derrick Rose is going to be a player that surprised you after all the doubt from people like Jeremy who says he's not a superstar. He's going to come out and surprise you after 2 years away from the game.
All right, Justin, you can go back to what you're saying.
I hope Derrick Rose does well. I mean, I'm rooting for the Bulls this year because I want them to beat the Cavaliers. But a guy I'm going to go with, a team hasn't played yet, but I'm going to go with Andre Drummond on the Detroit Pistons. I mean, I was looking at the ESPN fantasy projections. I mean, I know that's not like 100% accurate, but I mean, he was the only guy I really saw whose numbers were supposed to dramatically jump. I mean, his projections were 17 points, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks. The only thing with this guy is his free throw percentage is bad. I mean, this guy was just people just destroyed the Pistons for picking him with the 9th pick. They thought, what are you doing? I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. I mean, their front court is stacked. I mean, Josh Smith is sliding to 3, which I don't think works out well at all. I think if they trade Monroe, this would only help both their games. But I think Drummond's going to take this team under his wing. I mean, he's not a veteran. He's only 23 years old. But I think this guy's going to have a monster season this year. If he could pick up his free throw shooting, I think he could possibly be an MVP-type player within the next coming years. So I'm interested to see what he has to do in this season and in the future.
For my player that I think is going to surprise a couple people, I'm going to go with Anthony Davis, because a lot of people did question. He was ranked second, if you're bringing out fantasy projections. He was ranked second only behind LeBron James. A lot of people kind of looked at that and were, is he ready to make the step to be a superstar? Is he there yet? And I think he proved last night that he's definitely going to, at that level, 9 blocks is an insane number, still able to score and get rebounds. I think the best move of the offseason may have been, obviously it's hard to go against LeBron James, but Omer Sheik moving from Houston to New Orleans is huge. It gets Davis back to that forward position, his natural position where he wants to play, and really helps that team. I'm looking for this team to make a run to the postseason. Obviously in the West, with it being so competitive, it's going to be hard for them to really make a run in it. But I can see them getting a lower, maybe like 6 to 8 seed, and maybe making a run at a team like the Spurs or maybe an OKC at the top of the division.
Going back to your Pelicans talk there, I watched that game last night against the Magic, and I was very impressed with this Pelicans team. Drew Holiday went down with a cut on his eye. I think he is their floor general there, but a lot of guys stepped up. Eric Gordon puts the ball in the basket. Tyreek Evans is a good all-around player. And don't count out Ryan Anderson coming off the bench. He hit 4 threes straight, and when the game was still close in the third quarter, lit that place on fire. Crowd was going nuts, and I think he carried that team to win. So I think this team is going in the right direction. Like Jeremy said, if Anthony Davis could bring this together, I think this team could possibly make a playoff run.
And before we move on to the next topic, I'd just like to pose a question for us to debate here is, if Derrick Rose was cleared medically to go by the Chicago Bulls, and he was the reason that he was the reason why he didn't play and he refused to play, why didn't the Chicago Bulls trade him for as much assets as they could get on the market?
Because Chicago Bulls, he immediately becomes the face of the franchise when the NBA draft lottery is fixed so that he goes to his hometown Chicago. Don't even get me started on that topic.
We know you with the NBA draft.
Derrick Rose was the face of that franchise. The second Chicago even has a talk with another team about trading him, that city erupts into flames. Everyone's in, why are we trading Derrick Rose? Why are we doing this? All we have is Joakim Noah and these guys now, defensive players. They know they needed that scorer. If it's not going to happen this year, if he comes back healthy next year, he's still able to play. But regardless of the situation, if you are the star on the team, you need to go out and play for your team. You can't do anything sitting on the bench watching your team play. There are so many hard performances that have come through in any sport. You look back to football. Kellen Winslow had flu-like symptoms, had 102 degree temperature, and is getting fluids on the sidelines in between catches he's making. You have Dante Culpepper, when he's on Marshall, tears every ligament in his knee, and he's getting carried from huddle to huddle.
The flu game.
The flu game with Michael Jordan. That's not comparable to a knee injury, but he still went out and performed for his team, scored 30 points, and hit the game-winning 3. There's so many performances where you look at a star who's not at his best, obviously hurting or not feeling well, or there's something wrong, and he goes out and he plays at the level he's supposed to play. I can't consider Derrick Rose a superstar until he deals with adversity and comes through something like that. Even if he's feeling 100% and he's able to dethrone the king and move on to the finals, beats LeBron James out of the finals, maybe that's his signature career moment. He's had so many opportunities to have that moment, and he just doesn't take them.
Well, first of all, the thing you said about Derrick Rose overcoming adversity is just complete baloney. When you come from the south side of Chicago and that kind of poverty and crime, and people are getting shot every day, I think you've overcome a little adversity to become a superstar in the NBA. And second of all, if Derrick Rose was on the bench for 2 years and they didn't trade him, Percy Harvin just got traded from the Jets because he refused to go back in the game in the fourth quarter.
There were many more instances that resulted in that trade.
Sorry, let me finish.
He punched Golden Tate in the face.
Hold on for a second. So if Derrick Rose refuses to go back into the game, why didn't they trade him? You know why? Because the coaching staff and the medical staff must have played a role in facilitating him to let him take a year off from the game. Obviously, something wasn't right mentally with him. But again, this is a guy who's a league MVP, a #1 draft pick, and who came out of the south side of Chicago where people are getting shot every day. I don't know what type of person you're talking about, but Derrick Rose is a good person, and he's going to prove that he's a superstar in this league.
I'm not questioning his character. I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning
Well, you're saying he's a mentally fragile person.
You're saying he's a mentally fragile person.
But you
have
also
said
said as well.
multiple times he's a mentally fragile person.
You said he's a mentally fragile person who's selfish and won't play for his franchise.
I'm not calling him selfish. That's not a selfish. That's his decision.
You're saying a superstar will step up on the court and be the man. When a city is on your back, a city is on your back. You are playing for Chicago. You're playing for the name on the front of the jersey. Am I right?
Are you playing for the name on the back or the name on the front of the jersey? Who's signing your checks every month? The Chicago Bulls organization is signing his checks to play basketball. If he is where he needs to be to play medically, he can at least go out and be a decoy or stand out on the court, do something for his team. He can't do anything sitting on the bench watching.
Like I said, it's not all Derrick Rose's fault, though, okay? He was medically cleared, but he didn't get traded, so that means the coaching staff also played a role because they thought he wasn't ready to go. You can't put a guy out there if the coaching staff doesn't have faith in you. You're not going to get the opportunity to show what you can do, okay? So that's why if Derrick Rose wasn't traded, obviously that also says the coaching staff didn't believe in him. So you know what? He should have been traded, but he wasn't because the coaching staff did not believe in him. He may have been medically cleared, but he was not ready to return as Derrick Rose. And I bet you Derrick Rose was hungry to return. He's a league MVP. He has a reputation to uphold in this league, and he wasn't ready to go. Some guys aren't ready to go, and you need to give them the time. He's only 25, 26 years old, okay? We're not talking about...
And that's why he wasn't traded. That is exactly why he wasn't traded. He is a mid-20-year-old possible stud that could come back from these injuries and play well. You can't trade him just because he gets hurt for 1 year. That's the reason why he was not traded. If he's at LeBron's age right now and he's pulling that, I'm not playing because, I don't feel 100%, but medically I'm fine. He's off that team in an instant. If he's a 32-year-old, player, even in his late 20s, I think he's traded instantly.
Well, I don't think you trade a guy that old because, if they could do that, then Amari Stoudemire would be traded.
Well, that's different.
That's a different story. I mean, he's getting a lot of money. Going back to this topic with the Derrick Rose situation, I remember watching these games and I would get pretty mad. I'd be like, why is this guy taking forever to come back while you see other guys coming off knee injuries? I think the reason why, I think Chicago wanted to protect him, and they definitely, I don't think, wanted to trade him at all because, look what you just came from. They had horrible seasons back with when they just had Luol Deng and even when Ben Gordon was there. They did not want to go back to that because if you trade Derrick Rose, I don't care what assets you get, you're back at square one. That's why I don't think they didn't trade him. Personally, I would have liked to see him come back. The other thing is, too, even if he did come back, I'm not sure it would have made a big difference just because maybe he doesn't fit right in, or maybe he, off that big break, he's not going to come in and drop a big amount of points. But I think the whole situation was confusing. I think whether it be the coaching staff or Derrick Rose himself, they were just confused on what's really going to happen and what they should do moving forward. I think they were looking more towards the future, and I think, honestly, they felt they didn't really have a chance with or without Derrick Rose against the Heat. So,
every time he went in, he got hurt the next game. So this opportunity to let him have the whole year off allowed him to get the whole year to get as healthy and strong as possible. So now he's back, and there is no more excuses. I'm not saying if Derrick Rose gets hurt again or he performs poorly, that's going to be because of his injury. He's had as much time to rehabilitate and go through rehab and therapy to get as strong as possible.
You see how scared the Bulls are. One sec. When Derrick Rose in the preseason took a layup and went down, the whole Bulls bench shot up from the bench and ran over to see if he was okay.
Exactly. Like I said, he's injury
They're scared about him. I hope he can stay healthy. We'll have to see.
Back to the case in point, the question being, what is your surprise player? I think Derrick Rose is going to be a surprise player because he's never had an 82-game season. I think this is a season where he finally has one.
My last thoughts on Derrick Rose are, I don't have a problem if he's expected to come back in the postseason and he doesn't. Okay, that's fine. If you're expected to come back on that date and you're not ready, that's fine. He was expected to return in February of that season. They're asking him to play in June. They're giving him 4 extra months. 4 extra months to rehabilitate, to get back to his 100% that he is supposedly trying to be at, and then he's still not ready. That is a third of a year. That's so much time for him to be ready. And it's not even like they were pressuring him to return in February, March. They were saying, be ready for the postseason, be ready for the postseason, and he's still not ready at that point.
Like I said, you're not within the Chicago Bulls organization, so you can't say that they were literally going up to him saying, hey, Derrick, the postseason's coming around, so feel free, get ready as much as you can, then just come back and we'll throw you right in there, okay?
It's a simple system. The system revolves around Derrick Rose offensively. There is no other offensive threat on that team. If you look at
Westbrook last year, the meniscus and the ACL they're similar injuries. I would say the ACL is worse, but Westbrook wanted to get back in. He came back pretty quickly. Like I said, I was just confused. When he didn't come back, I was thinking, is there something more here? I was just hoping he would come back, and I was quite frankly a little not upset with him, but I just wanted to get him back in the game because.
Knee injuries are very tricky. You look at Russell Westbrook, who tore his meniscus, and then he comes back the following year. And ever since that injury, he's had 3 separate occasions where he's had to have another knee surgery. Knee injuries are tricky. They're all different with different types of people. So I think when you compare Derrick Rose to an Adrian Peterson to just average Joe who tore his ACL, all these cases are different, and all these cases have different timetables.
The only surprise that I could see with Derrick Rose is if he plays an entire 82-game season. Moving on, we're going to talk about the best backcourt in the league. Justin, we'll start with you.
Starting with me, if Derrick Rose is 100% healthy, I'm going to go with Rose and Butler. But however, if he's not healthy, I'm obviously not going with them. Another backcourt you really can't count out. I'm going to go with maybe the Charlotte Hornets with Kemba Walker and Lance Stevenson. I think Kemba Walker's a little immature in the NBA, but I think if he can mature and become a better player, then a much better player, Lance Stevenson, I think he needs to step it up a bit. But maybe later in the season, maybe next season, this could be a legit front court for the next couple years, and that's why I picked them to be the 3 seed in the East this year. But I think if Derrick Rose is 100% back to his MVP form, I'm going to go with him and Butler just because of Rose's offensive touch with Jimmy Butler's defense. So that's what I'm going with for the best backcourts in the league.
Definitely the Golden State Warriors with Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. I mean, this is the best shooting backcourt I've ever seen since the likes of, well, I can't really even think of any other backcourt that shot the ball so well as Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. These guys can make any shot from behind the three-point line, in the paint, in the perimeter area. I mean, every time these guys throw the ball up, you think it's going to go in the net. And I just love Klay Thompson. He's 6'7". He has the size of a small forward, but obviously the shooting ability of a 2-guard. This guy can score from anywhere on the floor and D anyone up on the floor. Stephen Curry, a 6'2", he's a great scorer, can create off the dribble, a marksman behind the three-point line, but I really love his ability to create off the dribble and get a shot off at any instant. His release is deadly.
If I'm going to look at a backcourt, I think there's 2 teams that really come to mind other than the teams that have been mentioned already. You look at maybe a team like the Washington Wizards with John Wall and Bradley Beal. Obviously, Bradley Beal is a nursing injury, but when he comes back, obviously he's arguably one of the better shooters in the league now. Still a young player. Both of these guys still young. John Wall's ability to get to the basket, create shots for himself. I think that he's really the face of Washington's franchise now, unless maybe KD joins them in a couple years, which I think is really going to be his premier destination at this point if he doesn't end up staying in OKC. But I think that those guys are good. Bradley Beal, the shooting, that's just a good punch there. And then obviously they were able to re-sign Nene and Gortat. I think that could be a good team. Then the acquisition of Paul Pierce in the offseason as well. I think that team could be a serious contender and has a very good backcourt. Another team that comes to mind is the Phoenix Suns. Goran Dragic, they were able to re-sign Bledsoe and then add Isaiah Thomas to the mix. I mean, those are 3 guys that are great guards. I think Dragic's going to do a good job of spreading the ball around, and then Isaiah scoring, passing, doing whatever he needs to do, and then Bledsoe, a lot of people thought he deserved a max contract or that he should get it, but I think that that's just 3 guys that are, I mean, one of them's going to be coming off the bench, probably going to be Isaiah, but there's just 3 guys you don't really want to have to play all on one night. So I got to agree. I think that's probably the best backcourt.
Another honorable mention here, the Portland Trailblazers with Damian Lillard and Wesley Matthews. Again, similar to the Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler. Wesley Matthews can shoot the ball very well from beyond the arc. He's a great perimeter defender. And then you got Damian Lillard, who is a clutch player. He can get it done in the fourth quarter. And I think they'll have a good backcourt for the foreseeable future for Portland.
Moving on, we're going to talk about the Thunder. Obviously, Kevin Durant went down with an injury. He's going to be out for the first month or so of the season. So we're gonna debate on whether they could stay strong with really just Russell Westbrook as their star. Holden, we'll start with you.
I definitely think the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to have a great start to the season. I mean, they did lose Kevin Durant for 4 to 8 weeks, but they still have guys like Russell Westbrook, who's an all-star, and Serge Ibaka, who's like a fringe all-star, and a great Defensive Player of the Year candidate for this upcoming season. I mean, Serge Ibaka, it's a block party down there in Oklahoma City right now. I'm going to love to see Russell Westbrook take on the full responsibility of scoring for this Thunder team. Last year, obviously, he was out for a period of time, and we saw Kevin Durant really step up and show his full potential on the offensive end of the floor when he's required to take up all the responsibility of scoring and providing offense. And now we'll see that role transition to Russell Westbrook, and he'll be responsible for providing a majority of the points for this Oklahoma City team. I'm really looking forward to it. Russell Westbrook is a dynamic athlete. I think personally he could play in the NFL. He's just so freakishly athletic. He can practically, I think, play any sport and possibly excel in any area. I'm really excited to see Serge Ibaka, young guys like Perry Jones and Jeremy Lamb. Hopefully these guys step up in their third and fourth seasons in the NBA and really play up to their potential. I just love this team all around. I think Kevin Durant, he's obviously a huge loss, league MVP, but Russell Westbrook, I think he'll pick up the slack.
Thunder, last week or 2 weeks ago on our show, we did our power rankings. It might have been last week, and I had the Thunder finishing 4th. If Kevin Durant was healthy, I'd probably have them finishing 1 or 2. But I feel this way because now that Kevin Durant's out, I think the Thunder, led by the Russell Westbrook, will only be about a 500 team this year until he comes back. Just because I think Westbrook's going to get his points, but I can't really see where the other scoring is from. They got Anthony Morrow from the Pelicans over the offseason, who I think is a very good shooter, and he'll benefit when Durant comes back because he could spread the floor. But and then they got Steven Adams in the paint, who averaged less than 5 points a game last year. I don't really see. He had a great preseason this year, averaging I think 19 points a game. So I think he could pick it up a little bit. You mentioned Serge Ibaka, but I think he's really there for his defense. And then they got a lot of young, unproven guys like Jeremy Lamb, Perry Jones, and I just feel like you said last week. I think if James Harden was still there, then that would help, but you can't even talk about that because they did make the trade and they did get assets from it. But I think this team's going to be a 500 team. I think Westbrook's going to get his points. I think he's going to have a great stat line, but overall I don't think the Thunder are going to be that successful. However, when Durant comes back, you put all those pieces together, I could see them making it into the 3 or 4 seed in the West.
Yeah, obviously, anytime you lose a league MVP, it's going to be hard to bounce back. I think I agree with Justin that this team will maybe be a 500. Just because, obviously, Russell Westbrook, a dynamic scorer, able to score in multitude of ways, but without another scorer alongside of him, I think it's going to be harder for them to be considered like a legitimate threat. Or if Russell Westbrook can't score 100 times in the game, so they're going to have to try to find scoring elsewhere. I really liked what Steven Adams did in the preseason. He was going to be maybe one of my guys I said for a surprise, but we kind of got off topic with that. So I think Steven Adams could help this team. He was a first-round pick last year. So he's definitely got some potential there. 7'2" center, so I think that he can maybe help. But this guy's definitely not going to be, the weight's not going to be thrown in his bag. They're not going to expect him to put up monster numbers for him. But I think Westbrook could help. They're going to have a good defense with Ibaka and Adams down in the front court. But other than that, I think it's going to be hard for this team to score. Maybe if they still had a Kevin Martin type player, even though he struggled when he was with OKC, they could at least help. He could maybe hit some threes throughout the course of the game or something like that. But I think right now OKC is going to be around a 500 team, and then when Kevin Durant does come back, I think that they're definitely going to be where they are as an elite team in the NBA. But even with the 2 pieces, I still think they're one more piece away from really being a legitimate title contender. I thought they could maybe get it with Pau Gasol, but obviously he decided to go to the Chicago Bulls. So I think right now that they're still a piece away from really being a championship contender, even with Kevin Durant. But I think that they'll be able to at least remain around 500, maybe a little bit lower, if even with just Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Jeremy. I definitely think that the Oklahoma City Thunder are one piece away. They're just one. It's a definable piece, though. It's just one scorer away. They need another scorer on that floor when KD and Russell Westbrook need a breather on the bench. And I think definitely a guy like a J.R. Smith or maybe a Tim Hardaway Jr. or maybe even a Dion Waiters, someone who can come off the bench as a sixth man and not only be a proficient shooter like Kevin Martin was, but also create off the dribble and get his own shot off.
I think they honestly got that with Anthony Morrow. He is a good shooter. Maybe he can't be like a Dan Waiters and make shots for himself, but I think honestly he was the piece they were looking for. Maybe he is not as good as they could have gotten, but I think he's a solid player. And going back to what Jeremy said with the lack of scoring, I honestly think the Thunder, the first half of the season, might be the lowest scoring front court in the whole league. Because, if you look at Perry Jones III, Serge Ibaka, and Steven Adams, unless Steven Adams continues what he was doing in the preseason, I don't see much scoring come out of this. When you lose a guy like KD, you're losing 30 points a game in your front court, which is very hard to replace with your reserves. So,
but what about Kendrick Perkins?
Kendrick Perkins and his 1.5 points a game can get out of here. Kendrick Perkins there for interior defense, which is not on the stat sheet, and veteran leadership, and he's there to set picks and break up fights. So he's not doing much there.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys here. I think that they need one more superstar. Honestly, I think that Pau Gasol, like, he's not really a superstar. He's like a semi-superstar. He's like a star in this league, I guess you could say. But I think they need one more guy like that. I mean, maybe it could have been like a Chris Bosh type figure if they pursued him. But I think that they need one more really big time scorer that you really have to take into consideration. I think J.R. Smith maybe could be a guy like that. But I think that wouldn't be enough. I mean, I could see he could play like the James Harden type role. But even then, I didn't think they would have had enough to beat Miami Heat in that series with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh when they were all healthy. So I think they really need one more piece. I mean, a lot of big threes have been forming, and that's really what you're looking for. You know, the Cavaliers, getting LeBron James and Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. I think that if OKC and the Cavaliers would have faced off, I think Cavaliers would run all over this team. Just because LeBron James, arguably the best player in the league, probably the best player in the league, can score in a multitude of ways. Then you have Kyrie, a guy that can spread the floor, score in a multitude of ways as well. And Kevin Love, who's been great scoring. I mean, could have been an MVP candidate last year if his team maybe performed better. So I think that there's still one more star away from being a series title contender. Moving on, we're going to go to the NFL. We're just going to ask each panelist what they feel like was the most important thing they learned in Week 8 with all the games that occurred. Justin, we'll start with you.
What I learned most in Week 8 was that the Steelers are a legitimate team. I'm not going to be the guy who jumps on the bandwagon just because they beat the Colts, but I sort of am in a way just because, I mean, I liked this team from the beginning just because I disliked the Ravens, and I did not think the Browns had anything in them, so I thought they were definitely a big threat to win that division. I mean, the Bengals are there, but I think if the Steelers could have made a run, they could have gotten in. But I'm really impressed with what I saw. I mean, I of course traded Ben Roethlisberger in fantasy like a couple weeks ago, and then he throws for 400 yards. So, I mean, and also another thing is, I think it also adds on to Andrew Luck's case for MVP. I mean, this guy, even with the blowout, almost led his team back and still threw for how many yards?
450 yards.
Yeah, I mean, and he still did that. Most guys would have cracked and been like, "Oh, we're done after." But he, honestly, I think Andrew Luck thought they were going to win that game up until the last 2 minutes of that game, and unfortunately it didn't go his way. But I was impressed by both teams there, and I was more impressed by the Steelers because I think they're moving into that playoff team. They're looking more like a playoff team after that win.
The Saints are not dead in the water for this season with a big Sunday night win over the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers riding high on a 4-game win streak with Aaron Rodgers playing at an all-time level for his career. But the Saints, with the talented squad they have, Drew Brees, Brandon Cooks, Marcus Colston, Jimmy Graham, and that defense led by Rob Ryan, this team proved that even though they're 3-4, that they can still make some noise in the NFC and win big primetime games.
Going back to what Justin said about the Colts, I think that I was almost disappointed in how they did just because of how poorly their defense played. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is a good quarterback. I mean, Super Bowl winning guy, but you don't really look at him as an elite quarterback, a guy that you're fearing coming into the game. And he throws for 522 yards on them and a couple of touchdowns. So I think that the Colts defense kind of let me down here. I mean, given one of the touchdowns was a pick six, but it's still hard to see a team give up big points like that and so many yards to a quarterback who wasn't even in any of our top fives for this upcoming season. So I think it's hard to look at them and consider them elite. I think that their safety was beat up and they had a lot of injuries, but I think you still got to try to come out and play better than you did in that. The Saints, I love the Saints. They're a team that I always want to see win. Drew Brees, one of my favorite players, but I can't see this team doing anything because they literally have not won a road game all year. Right now, at a 3-4 record, it doesn't look like they're going to get one of the top 2 seeds in the NFC. So I think that you almost have to eliminate them right off the bat because they're not going to go into, even if Detroit was hosting a game, they already went there and lost there. So it's hard to see this team really making a run if they're going to have to win all their games on the road or you only be able to play one at home. So I'm going to have to almost not say they're a serious contender just because of the inability to win on the road. But I think I learned that the Eagles are not legitimate. Every time this team plays anyone outside of the NFC East, it seems like they're playing them well, and then at the end of the game, something happens where they fall apart or something like that. This Eagles team, I think they have a lot of potential. I think one of the better, almost underrated moves of this offseason had to be Darren Sproles leaving New Orleans to come to Philadelphia. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to get a lot of touches, but that LeSean really hasn't really done much for them. LeSean McCoy, he's kind of been, the back seat there. So Darren Sproles, I think, has really been a great addition for them. Their wide receivers have been playing well. Jeremy Maclin had a monster game, but Arizona played them hard. I mean, this is considered one of the better teams in the NFC right now. But I think that they have to be able to play better on the road as the Eagles and just play better outside of the NFC East.
Man, I'd just like to say, Jeremy, you have a high standard for elite players. First, you say Derrick Rose is not elite, and then you say Ben Roethlisberger's not elite.
Are you kidding me
for
right
a guy
now?
who's won two Super Bowls,
Two Super Bowls,
okay, and you say he's not elite. Your standard is high, man.
Okay, I'm not saying he's not an elite quarterback. I'm saying he wasn't in any of our top 5. No one here put Ben Roethlisberger in as a top 5 quarterback.
I thought I put him in my top 5.
No, he was not
I
in
think we
anyone's
all had
top
the same,
5.
but they were in different
They
orders.
were all the same. If you're not in the top 5 quarterbacks, that's my elite. The top 5 of 32, that's the elite group. If we're not putting him in our top 5, he's not an elite quarterback.
The other thing
Well, I
is,
have to disagree with you there. Sorry, Justin, I'll let you go after I finish here. I always say that it's always like the top 5, and that 5th guy always rotates every year with
But he
another
wasn't
guy.
in any of our top 5s.
honestly,
I would put him
don't
in
know
my top 5 right now.
Right
Well,
now, he was a good He was a good quarterback.
I'm not
back
saying
in
he's
those
not a
days
good quarterback.
when they beat the Cardinals back in 2009.
Yeah.
But now,
There's 5 guys I would pick right now before I pick Ben Roethlisberger.
Do you talk about
on
the
my
elite
team.
teams being the Steelers? Like when we do our
Yeah.
preseason predictions, do we say like, oh, the Steelers?
The Steelers,
with
I'm
Ben
sure, wouldn't have
Roethlisberger?
been in any of our top 10s.
I think Ben Roethlisberger's always been that guy who's like, oh, well, they got Big Ben on their team.
Yeah.
He's been that average guy who's just there every year. I mean, he has these big games, but I don't know if I can call him elite yet. I think if we're going to rank him as like 1 through 32, I'm going to put him around maybe the 10 or 11 mark.
Yeah, this is a team that just got scared by the Cleveland Browns, and then you look at this guy, he has one big game, and now he's elite again. I think that you have to have a higher standard for a quarterback before you consider him elite, when there's guys in this league that are throwing up insane numbers like Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, with the lack of weapons he has right now, is still winning football games, still playing at this elite level that we're talking about. I mean, Aaron Rodgers tells the Packers fans to relax and then goes on an insane 4-game win streak where he's lighting it up. Randall Cobb, all the weapons they have there. I think that it's hard to consider Ben Roethlisberger elite now. I mean, if we're talking 2, 3, 4 years ago, he's definitely an elite quarterback. He's winning Super Bowls. I mean, he won a Super Bowl his first year as a full-time starter. So this guy is a legitimate quarterback. I mean, I wouldn't want to face him in the postseason, but it's not a guy I'm fretting like I'm fretting Peyton Manning coming in and playing him.
Well, like I said, 3 things. First of all, if we're talking top 10, I'm putting him at 6 or 7. I can't think of 4 other guys I put ahead of Ben in that 6 or 7 spot ahead of Ben Roethlisberger. Second, last season he had one of his, if we're talking just pure numbers, and you said guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck had better numbers than Ben Roethlisberger, that's not true. Statistically speaking, Ben Roethlisberger had one of his best seasons with over 4,200 yards passing and over 20 touchdowns. He had a better season than Andrew Luck statistically.
Okay.
And third of all, Ben Roethlisberger, compared to guys like Aaron Rodgers, don't have a lot of weapons. Yes, he has Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, but really they have a shoddy offensive line and a shoddy defense with old grandpa guys like Troy Polamalu on that defense. And also, Ben Roethlisberger's won 2 Super Bowls. I mean, Andrew Luck has won 0. Peyton Manning has won 1.
I am talking about right now
Aaron
in
Rodgers
week
has
8
won
of
1
this
like 10
season.
years ago.
In
We're
week
talking
8
Ben
of this season, I'm asking you who
2-time
elite
Super Bowl
quarterbacks are.
champion.
That's just
2-time
ignorant. That is
Super
just
Bowl
completely
champion.
ignorant. I am talking about this season right now. I don't care how many Super Bowl he has won last year. We're talking about week 8 of the 2014 season, and Ben Roethlisberger has one good game, and it seems like every game the Steelers are in, they're always underdogs right now. Their
Well, that's because of that
line,
defense. That
Le'Veon
defense
Bell
sucks.
Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette
They were
Blount
up
have been playing very
24-3
well.
on the Cleveland Browns, and they let them come back and score 27 points.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, does Ben Roethlisberger play defensive tackle? Does he play linebacker? Does he play safety? No, he's the freaking quarterback, and it's that defense's fault for letting up those 27 points. You can't put that on Roethlisberger.
Okay. Aaron Rodgers' defense was the worst defense in the National Football League last year.
That's not true. It was Dallas Cowboys. It was the Dallas Cowboys.
They were the 31st worst defense in the NFL, and he led that team to the postseason.
He missed most of the games.
Was Ben
He missed like 8
Roethlisberger's
games with a broken collarbone.
Were the Pittsburgh Steelers in the postseason last year?
No, they were
Did
not.
they play any playoff games last year?
No. But Ben Roethlisberger, you said earlier, Andrew Luck had a better statistical season than Ben Roethlisberger.
Are you taking
Ben
Andrew Luck
Roethlisberger.
or Ben Roethlisberger right now for your
Well, I
franchise?
just saw yesterday Ben Roethlisberger versus Andrew Luck playing against each other.
You're calling
Ben
the
Roethlisberger
Pittsburgh
won.
Steelers defense. You're calling the Pittsburgh Steelers defense out. This Indianapolis Colts are missing Robert Mathis from their defensive line, their best pass rusher, and arguably one of the best pass rushers in the NFL right now. They're losing their best cornerback in Toller, and everyone else on that defensive line is hurt. Their starting defensive tackle is Jean-Francois.
He's been a starter all season.
You're telling me that you're comparing the Steelers defense to that?
Look, the Steelers defense sucks and the Colts defense sucks. So we knew coming to this game that it was going to be the Steelers offense versus the Colts offense. And who won out? I'm sorry, the Steelers offense
I don't
won out.
think you can compare one
You can't compare those. That's one game with both. The Steelers defense isn't banged up. The Colts defense is. There's so many variables going into that game. It's a home game for Pittsburgh. It's not like it's on a neutral field. All the variables are taken out. Both teams are going in full strength.
I mean, the defense.
There's so many variables.
How many points did the defense score for the? Because I know they had that pick 6.
They had a pick 6, and then
they
there was
still would have won the game even though they wouldn't have got picked. Let me just ask a question. How many Super Bowl titles does Andrew Luck have?
Andrew Luck is in his
How
third
many
season
Super
compared to
Bowl-
Ben
How
Roethlisberger,
many
who's
Super
been
Bowl
playing since like
titles
2007.
How many Super Bowl titles does Andrew Luck have?
That's just in.
Wait, how many does he have?
0.
Andrew Luck
Exactly,
will
0.
finish
Ben
his
Roethlisberger
career.
have 2.
That's just irrelevant. Ben Roethlisberger has played many more years than Andrew Luck has in the NFL.
Come talk to me when Andrew Luck
That
has
is the
3
most
Super Bowls.
absurd comment I've ever heard on this show. That is
that
ridiculous.
blasphemous?
That is blasphemous. That is. I'm out. That's ridiculous. That is literally ridiculous.
Oh my God.
That's ridiculous. That's the worst comment I've ever heard on the show.
Oh my God.
I'm out.
Are we doing the show?
I'm done. You guys can continue on.
All right, this is Sports Talk with Holden and Justin. Moving on, we're going to our next topics here. Justin, let's talk about the NFL pursuing here. Well, what did you learn from Week 8? We didn't even get to you.
Well, no, we did. I talked about saying the Steelers were a legitimate team and how I still was impressed with Andrew Luck about how he did, pick it up still, considering they were down by, what were they down, 30 at one point?
Yeah, I mean it was just an annihilation. So moving on to our next topic here, we have 3 quarterbacks prospects who are currently playing in college, obviously right now with Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, and Dak Prescott. Justin, who do you think is the best NFL-ready prospect?
I'm going to go with, for best NFL, I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota just because, we've seen what happened with Johnny Manziel. Is he playing right now? No. Same is going to be said for Jameis Winston. Who's a better quarterback in college, Jameis Winston or Johnny Manziel? Who would you rather have?
I'd rather have Johnny.
You'd rather have Johnny, and look where he is in the NFL. So is Jameis Winston going to come in and just take over a team? I understand maybe if he goes to a team like Jacksonville, the Raiders, where they need a QB to step right in, maybe he will. But I think the same could be said for Marcus Mariota if he steps right in. I think he's better suited for the NFL game, and I think he could be more of like a Russell Wilson type player, maybe not be a superstar or an elite QB, but I think he could step in and get the job done on a hopefully legitimate team in the future. So I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota as the best NFL QB prospect.
Yeah, I definitely have to go with Marcus Mariota, like you said. Dak Prescott, whenever I see Dak Prescott play, I always think of Tebow. I don't know if you think of Tebow, but the way he's built, his size, his throwing mechanics aren't that great. His release is kind of slow. I just see Tebow. I see a lot of heart and a lot of athletic ability. So when I see him, I think Tebow, and obviously Tebow didn't pan out in the NFL. When I think Jameis Winston, I think too many off-the-field problems. This guy is constantly in the news, just like Johnny Manziel was in the news. This guy is just not going to play in the NFL because he just creates too much of a stir off the field. With those crab legs, it was insane. I definitely think Marcus Mariota, 6'4". He's a little lightweight, 210 pounds, but I think he can bulk up once he gets to the league. I love his athletic ability. Really reminds me of a Colin Kaepernick, just has that raw athletic talent. And Jeremy Farina has come back in the studio after.
I just have one thing to say.
We need our host, man. We need our host.
One thing to say. When the Steelers won 2 Super Bowls, okay? When the Steelers, I'm holding my mic here because it's not clipped on me anymore. When the Steelers won 2 Super Bowls, what was their defense like?
It was pretty good, but I remember Ben
Was it
Roethlisberger
elite?
throwing that game-winning touchdown pass to
Well,
San Antonio Holmes.
do you know what the defense was ranked? Do you know what they were ranked in the NFL?
Please.
2.
2.
They were the second-ranked defense in the National Football League. 2 out of 32.
Who threw that game-winning touchdown pass to win the Super Bowl?
How many points did the Cardinals score?
Who threw
How
the
many
game?
points did the Cardinals score in that game?
Who threw the game-winning touchdown? Say his name. Say his name, Jeremy.
Ben Roethlisberger threw a game-winning
Ben
touchdown.
Roethlisberger,
Okay,
that's
how many
right.
game-winning drives has Andrew Luck led in his 3-year-old career?
Has it been in the Super Bowl?
I
No,
mean,
that's just an arrogant statement.
Has it been
Like,
in the Super
literally-
Bowl? I mean,
literally-
people, come on.
literally,
I
he
mean, just
hasn't
call
been in the
in.
Super Bowl.
Call in.
No.
Call in to give us your
You're
opinion.
comparing-
Andrew Luck, Ben
you're
Roethlisberger.
comparing-
Who would you want
Andrew
right
Luck is
now?
Andrew Luck is gonna win that, like no questions asked. You're comparing a 3-year career to a 10-year career. That's what you're comparing now. That's 7 more chances Ben Roethlisberger had to win a Super Bowl. Not to mention his defense was ranked 1 multiple years, multiple seasons.
All I can say is the Indianapolis.
You know what the Colts defense was ranked last year?
It's not letting me finish, people.
24th in the league.
I'm just going to say a couple things here. First of all, the Indianapolis Colts cut Peyton Manning in favor of Andrew Luck. They thought Andrew Luck was going to be a great prospect to build off for the next decade. Okay, you got rid of Peyton Manning, who's arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So Andrew Luck's coming in. He's got to be the best thing since sliced bread, basically. So
And he was.
He's got to come in, and so far he's been in the postseason, threw a couple picks to New England. Hasn't gone to the Super Bowl. And we got a little guy in Pittsburgh. No one really knows who he is. His name is Ben Roethlisberger. He's won 2 Super Bowls.
I thought he was a big guy, Big Ben.
Oh, Big Ben? Yeah. Well, talking to Jeremy doesn't really know.
I mean,
who he is. He's won 2 Super Bowls. Threw a game-winning touchdown to win a Super Bowl. But he's little Ben. He's little Ben off in Pittsburgh.
So
and,
can we?
Andrew Luck is just the
So
next
can
thing
we
to
say
slice
that
bread.
since Tom Brady only has, since Peyton Manning only has 1 Super Bowl?
Yeah,
he's not
you're
as good
literally
as Ben
contradicting.
Roethlisberger?
So Ben Roethlisberger is
I'm
better
just
than
saying-
Peyton Manning.
no.
No. Ben Roethlisberger has 2 Super Bowls, and Peyton Manning only has 1.
I'm just
So Ben
saying, you
Roethlisberger is
can't.
better.
No, my problem is you're bringing up Andrew Luck. You're saying Andrew Luck is better than Ben Roethlisberger.
Right now, Andrew Luck is the better
needs to win a
quarterback.
Super Bowl for me to consider
He
him
has
elite.
a 3-year career. This man is a little toddler here. His career
I'm just
is
saying,
just
you're
beginning.
saying Ben Roethlisberger's not elite. You can't say a guy's not elite when he wins 2 Super Bowls. That's my
So
problem.
Eli Manning's an elite quarterback.
Yes, he is. He's
Really?
money in the playoffs.
Eli Manning is an elite. How does he get there?
He's
with
money.
a
that
8-8
Giants
season?
defense sucks.
Is Russell
he has
Wilson
no
an elite
weapons
QB?
around him, and you can't
The
say
Colts
Peyton
defense
Peyton
sucks,
Manning has
and they
Demaryius
get to the
Thomas,
Super Bowl.
Wes Welker, Julius Thomas. He had Eric Decker.
I'm not talking about the
Sean
Denver
Moreno.
Broncos. I never
You
brought up
said
the
Peyton,
Denver Broncos.
you said Peyton Manning's better than Ben Roethlisberger. Give Ben Roethlisberger the weapons that Peyton Manning has in Denver, and let's see where that goes.
I don't
okay?
think you can compare.
Let's see where that goes.
If the Denver wide receiving core is so good, why did the Pittsburgh Steelers let go of Emmanuel Sanders?
They couldn't afford him. They were cap strapped.
Oh, but if
they're
their
a small
defen-
market team compared to Denver. I'm sorry. Do you see guys running to Pittsburgh to play in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? They're going to Denver, Colorado.
When they were winning Super Bowls, when Ben
I'm sorry.
Roethlisberger was an elite quarterback, they
name
were.
more than 3 stud receivers on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster at any given point at the same time they were on the team. Name
At the
3.
same time.
At the same time.
Santonio Holmes.
Okay.
Santonio Holmes, Hines Ward.
Okay.
Heath Miller.
He's a tight end.
He made plays for them. He caught a touchdown in the playoffs.
Yeah,
He
but
caught-
if
okay,
you
okay,
can't,
let's
if you
go to
can't
Denver.
have
Let's
tight
go to
ends
Denver.
in the
Okay, so
argument-
Jimmy Graham isn't a stud receiver for the New Orleans Saints.
He's a tight end.
But is he a weapon for them offensively?
Yes.
But you can't mention
Okay.
Julius Thomas on the Broncos.
Yeah, so
because
then your Julius Thomas is-
Look. Hold up here. Hold up. Calm down. You're just getting pissed.
You're the one yelling.
You're getting pissed because
I'm talking in a normal voice here.
you just stomped out of the studio and came right back in.
You said you were comparing
Look, the question
a
was,
multiple
you're saying-
decade career to a 3-year
No,
career.
I'm not saying. My problem is you said Ben Roethlisberger was an elite QB. I'm saying he is because he's won 2 Super Bowl rings, okay? And you're saying a guy like Andrew Luck is better than him, and this guy hasn't produced in the playoffs and hasn't made it to the Super Bowl. So you don't come to me and say, well, Andrew Luck had a better statistical season than Ben Roethlisberger.
I
No,
never
he didn't.
said that.
You just said it earlier.
No, I didn't.
If we
No, I
rewind
did
the
not.
tape, Nick,
No,
go
I did
find
not.
that tape, Nick.
No, I did not.
If we
I
rewind
never
that
said that.
tape and go
I
back,
never said that.
You just said it.
Andrew Luck-
you said
Andrew
guys
Luck
like
is-
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, which is true. I'll give you Peyton Manning, but you said Tom Brady and Andrew Luck have better stats than Ben Roethlisberger.
No, I said they're having better seasons.
No, you said last season they had better stats. Rewind the tape, Nick. I bet you'll find it.
Ben Roethlisberger comparing to Andrew Luck is ludicrous right now. Ludicrous. Compare them.
I'm sorry,
whether
but
his
They
careers are
just
over.
played each other and he won out.
So is Ben
and there's no
Roethlisberger
time
up for
like
any
in
pressure.
a shootout where the Colts defense was
And And the Pittsburgh defense sucked too.
It doesn't matter. Their defense is at full strength compared to the Colts defense that is completely depleted.
I'm sorry, Ike Taylor wasn't in the game. He's out with an injury.
That's one player.
So what? The Colts don't have Robert Mathis. I'm sorry.
Robert Mathis and their number one cornerback in Toller, who would have been
Toller was in the game. I was watching the game
wasn't.
he was playing.
He was hurt. He was limited.
All right, moving on to the next question.
Oh no,
folks.
I'm loving this topic because it's so you can't compare those two players right now. I'm saying that if I was starting a franchise right now, if I was doing a fantasy draft,
I would give you Andrew Luck because Andrew Luck is good for the next decade. Roethlisberger's not going to play when he's 45 years old.
Who or both you guys? Who's going to have the better when it's all said and done? Who will be the
Andrew Luck is going to have the
Andrew
better
Luck
career
because he's already produced.
I rest my case.
I'm saying right now, who's the better quarterback? I would say Roethlisberger.
Why?
Because he had a great statistical season last year. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion.
You're saying
right now. If we're talking down the road in the next 5 years, it is Andrew Luck.
Yes.
Because he's the younger guy.
Right, like if you had it for one season, like
one game for the money right now, who would you take, Roethlisberger or Luck?
I'm taking Andrew Luck.
I'm taking Roethlisberger because they just played each other and Roethlisberger won.
So they have the exact same defense, the exact same offensive weapons, and you're going to take Ben Roethlisberger.
I'm going to take Ben Roethlisberger.
Why?
Wait, so
because they just won. They played each other. We saw it in fact.
But those aren't equal teams. I'm saying you have the same exact defense and the same exact offense. So your offense is two.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said Toller was out, and who else was out? Robert Mathis, right?
Yeah.
For that Colts defense. I'm sorry, for the Steelers defense, Ryan Shazier was out, and Ike Taylor was out. So 2v2.
No, what I'm
2v2.
No, that's not what I'm
2v2,
saying.
baby. 2v2.
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 Equivalent teams.
Oh, my Lord.
Your line is completely the same. Your running back is the same exact player. Your two wide receivers are the same exact player. Your defense is completely the same. Everything is the same. You have one season with this team, and your quarterback is either
I'm taking Roethlisberger because he's proven in the past that he's money in crunch
Andrew Luck
time.
has had two opportunities in the playoffs.
Exactly, and he's come up broke. I'm sorry, did you throw 4 picks against New England?
That's New England. He's going up against Tom Brady. He has to match Tom Brady.
I'm sorry, Roethlisberger's won 2 rings, and every time he's been in the playoffs, he's
play in
been
the
money.
Super Bowl? Kurt Warner in the Arizona Cardinals?
Kurt Warner's a stud.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
And the only reason that the Cardinals, the Steelers were in that Super Bowl game was because of that pick 6 from the 3-yard line.
That's what I'm saying.
And that defense.
Did James Harrison make the biggest play in that game?
I'm sorry, but in the Super Bowl, defense matters too. But Roethlisberger threw the game-winning touchdown to San Antonio
That
Holmes.
was his only touchdown of the game.
But he threw it.
He threw one touchdown.
He threw the game-winning touchdown. Andrew Luck threw 4 picks in the playoff game against New England.
I think that's probably gonna do it for this show.
Jeremy's mad because PV lost. He thinks Derrick Rose is going to be a loser, and he also thinks Andrew Luck's better than Ben Roethlisberger.
Players play. Players play.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Are you Coach Pagano?
I think that's gonna be it for this edition of Sports Talk. We had a good debate this week.
Jeremy, I don't know, man. I mean, some of the stuff you were saying tonight was just.
All right, let's make it next show next Wednesday. Anybody who wants to call in can call in and give their input on both the Derrick Rose debate, which we had today, and the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, Andrew Luck debate.
Let me remind you, American people out there, okay? Jeremy Farina said Derrick Rose is a loser. He says he sucks. He's not up to play. He doesn't want to make it back on the court. He's not hungry. I'm sorry. Derrick Rose, last time I checked, was the league MVP last time he played. He said Ben Roethlisberger is not elite, even though the guy's won 2 Super Bowls, and he just beat Andrew Luck, the guy who said he's elite. I'm sorry. I talk about the present here, people. And then he said something like Jake Peavy's the man. Jake Peavy lost game 2, in the playoffs, just like I said he would. I said he would lose game 2, and what happened? He lost game 2. Game 6, he gets pulled out in the second inning. He stinks so bad. So people, please call in, offer your answers.
Yeah, we need your input here because I'm keep debating this and I'm trying to mediate
All right,
this.
Justin,
you know what we should do next week? I'll get in the middle, and we'll do controversial debates that we'll discuss before.
Oh my goodness,
things you disagree on, and then we'll go after it.
Oh, all right.
But
Justin,
you
want to sign us out here?
Anyway, that's all we have for this edition of Sports Talk. Jeremy Farina would be sitting there, but I'm Justin Palillo and Holden Pirelli, and we'll see you next Wednesday, and we'll have good things for you. Thank you.
Is this the end of Sports Talk? Find out next.